Oh, hello. How are you all? Good afternoon. Welcome back to SteamPunk Over Ether. Sorry, I was just reading How to Bag a Jabberwock, which is a book all about monster hunting by Major Jack Union, aka the lovely Kit Cox. And it's a very useful book if you're out hunting monsters. And I think that might be quite useful for where we're going next, because we're going to take a trip to Hopeless, Maine. Now, Hopeless, Maine isn't necessarily somewhere you want to go normally, but here we are. We're going to take a trip to Hopeless, Maine. Before we do, we're going to have another poem. So we're just going to calm ourselves down a bit, and we're going to have a poem from Keats, read by the lovely Matt Broom.
To one who has been long in city pent, 'tis very sweet to look into the fair and open face of heaven, to breathe a prayer full in the smile of the blue firmament. Who is more happy when, with heart's content, fatigued he sinks into some pleasant lair of wavy grass, and reads a debonair and gentle tale of love and languishment. Returning home at evening with an ear catching the notes of Philomel, an eye watching the smiling cloudlet's bright career. He mourns that day as soon as glided by, e'en like a passage of an angel's tear that falls through the clear ether silently.
I'm all calm now. So that was the lovely Matt Broom there, reading a poem, a little bit of Keats for you there. Yes, Shakila, you love this background. I love this background too. This is by Tom Brown, who is the illustrator behind Hopeless, Maine, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. But Hopeless, Maine, yes, in fact, let's talk about it now. Hopeless, Maine was created by Tom and Nimue Brown, and it's a place that's kind of it's full of horrific things, but it's also full of a lot of humour as well. So it's a very dark place. It's kind of Lovecraftian. There's lots of magic. There's all sorts of weird and wonderful characters and creatures and so on. And it's quite lovely. And it was came into being first as a set of graphic novels, which Tom illustrated and Nimue helped write. And in fact, that's how they met, which is a lovely story. I interviewed them about a couple of weeks back, so you'll find that on the Steam Paper page. So if you want the full story, do watch that, because it tells you the whole thing about Hopeless, Maine. But yeah, so it's apparently in graphic novels and so on. And then it spread out into the world. They did a lovely thing. They basically created a website where you could contribute to the world of Hopeless, Maine, and you could publish stories. You still can. You could publish stories set on the island. You could. People have done poems. They've done artwork. Somebody's produced a role-playing game, which is available now. It's quite brilliant. And I myself, I actually wrote a few short stories, and then eventually I ended up writing a book, which we then published. And hello. Now, speaking of Nimue, hello Nimue. She's waving her tentacles, which is most appropriate for Hopeless, Maine. So one of the nice things we did the other year was we actually did a kind of radio play thing based on the kind of thing that Garrison Keillor used to do. Now, I don't know how many of you are familiar with the works of Garrison Keillor, but the one thing you have to know about Garrison Keillor is he has the most wonderful radio voice, absolutely gorgeous Midwestern American voice. And he does these amazing kind of stories, homespun stories from little towns, little fictional towns in America. And so we wanted to do something in that same kind of flavour for Hopeless, Maine. And so we can't really do the whole thing now. We haven't got the people and the resources to do it. So we're going to give you a little bit of a flavour. And it kind of kicked off with the piece I'm going to read to you now. And because I decided, for better or for worse, to do it in an American accent, because Hopeless, Maine is it's off the coast of America, so I'm immediately going to apologise to anybody who is watching from America. And to signify this fact, I'm going to change hats. So, this is a little bit of the Hopeless, Maine radio show. Well, it's been foggy this past week in Hopeless, Maine. It's foggy today. It was foggy yesterday. and I reckon there's more than a fair chance it may well be foggy tomorrow. Not much need for a weather forecast in this neck of the woods. But then there was this one fella, name of Spratt, who washed up here while conducting a meteorological survey of the fog around the island. Well, he got it into his head to set up a weather station and work out what the weather was going to be. Folk laughed at him, as they often do round here, but he paid them no mind, spending more and more time studying the weather, or lack thereof, and trying to find out what made it so foggy. He spent hours staring at the fog. Now, this was something right-minded folks would just never do. Spend too much time looking at the fog, and you would begin to see faces. Faces you wouldn't want to see. And more importantly, faces that you wouldn't want seeing you. Well, one particular foggy night, Spratt just plain disappeared. Of course, this is not particularly remarkable around here. People just up and disappear all the time, it's true. It was particularly unfortunate because he never saw one of the rarest events we ever get to experience, a day when the fog lifts for a few hours in hopeless Maine, which actually happened just after Spratt vanished. Tradition has it that all inhabitants stop what they are doing and meet up on the village green to celebrate. Now, when I say it was a rare occurrence, Peter Heinkel had been living here for years and he didn't even know we had a village green. Even old man Jello Johnson and Picker Snog Cat Davis, who'd been drinking buddies in the squid and teapot since way back, suddenly found out they lived within a few yards of each other. Practically neighbours, and they never knew. Well, yeah, some people said it was a miracle, some said it was magic, and those that knew weren't saying. It was kind of ironic that man Spratt never got to witness, measure, or analyse it. Poor Spratt, you know. Some say he just turned wispier until he blew away. Folks were upset. After all, it was one less misguided person to laugh at. Yeah, I suppose you could say Spratt was missed. But that was all a while ago now. Anyway, foggy is what we know. So there we go. A little bit of the introduction to the Hopeless Maine radio show, which kind of featured news and little things and snippets and a tourist guide and so on. Yes, life is like a box of chocolates. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, it's true. Hats do assist with accents. Hats make all the difference. Hello, Tom. Hello. So, next up, we've got a little bit of a song, and normally we jolly good. We got a little bit of a song, and now normally when we get songs from Hopeless Maine, Tom Brown, who is following in the comments, normally takes part, but he wasn't very well when they recorded this, so unfortunately he's not present. But anyway, I should play you this now. It's a lovely song. It's a traditional song that's been reimagined for Hopeless Maine, so I'll play it to you now.
Hello, so this is the new song from Hopeless Maine. It's new in the sense that there are some verses that didn't exist before. The tune is actually traditional, and I stole the chorus as well for good measure, but this is far, far sillier than the original Prickle-Eye Bush. And over to young James Weaselgrease here for singing, and hopefully a note to start me off so that we don't do horrible and despicable things.
Yes.
Also, I have raveled my collar in a despicable, and there we go. I look a lot more presentable now and a bit less lopsided.
Oh, the prickle-eye bush, it breaks my heart full sore. And if ever I get out of this prickle-eye bush, I never shall get in it anymore. I climbed into this bush to pick a spiky pear. Now the thorns are in my skin, and I can't go anywhere. A pear I hope to pick, a spiky pear on high. Now I am caught and captured, and fear that I may die. Oh, the prickly bush, it breaks my heart full sore. And if ever I get out of this prickly bush, I never shall get in it any more. There's something in this bush that makes an awful sound. I fear its cry will drive me mad while in this bush I'm bound. Oh, who will set me free and save me from this bush that tempted me with distant fruit and makes my blood to gush? Oh, the prickly bush, it breaks my heart full sore. And if ever I get out of this prickly bush, I never shall get in it any more. The bush has stayed my hand, and stayed it for a while, but I think I see a rescue party coming o'er the miles.
Hurrah!
Oh, have you brought some rope or axes to set me free? Or have you come to have a laugh while I'm stuck in this tree? Oh, the prickly bush, it breaks my heart full sore. And if ever I get out of this prickly bush, I never shall get in it any more.
Thank you very much. And if you're wondering what we've done with Tom, he doesn't have the plague, but he is currently discommoded by the sheer number of tentacles upon his anatomy. We hope that he will be better soon. He loves you all very much. And he can't stop from saying things like this because he's not in this video. Blessings from Hopeless Maine. And we'll see you around somewhere, hopefully.
Fantastic, I love that. Beautiful singing there from Nimue and her coglit, I believe, as she says, her cogling. So lovely singing there, and I don't know why they never ask me to sing, but they never do. Sad, really. Probably because my voice is absolutely awful, but that could have something to do with it, I guess. Now, it's hard to give you a kind of flavour of Hopeless Maine, but I'm going to read you another short story, and it kind of ties in with one of the characters, and there's lots of weird characters in Hopeless Maine, and some of them are funny, and some of them are lovely, and some of them are just a little bit dark and mysterious, and you don't really know what their motives are. And also, because it's an island, people tend to get, well, what happens is people get shipwrecked there and they can never leave because of the vagaries of the place. It's a very mysterious place, and basically once you get stuck there, you're stuck there, and it's kind of stuck in this kind of Victorian era as well, which is weird. So you have to rely on what washes up on the shore in order to live, and it's quite hard to survive, really. So this is a little bit of a story about the fact that there are not many things around that you can use. It's called the Village Square. There are many resources that the remote island of Hopeless Maine lacks. Items that we might consider indispensable to living in a civilized society. Here, they are either absent or in very short supply. This undeniable fact of life on the island was cruelly obvious to its inhabitants, whose lives were often fatally determined by the scarcity of something essential. As you might expect, the situation gave rise to a trade in useful commodities, one which often valued quite mundane items highly, and others that we might consider treasure less so, because of their relative scarcity or commonality. But the rarest of items upon the island was not valued highly. It was often overlooked and ignored despite its uniqueness. The reason for this lack of appreciation was that none of the inhabitants, with one exception, realised just quite how rare it was. It was such an ordinary thing. The exception was its keeper, who certainly knew how rare it was, but he was not about to broadcast the fact, because, for him, it served a particular function that more than outweighed its intrinsic value. The piece of this material that existed was small, roughly 1 metre square, no bigger, and it was located in the middle of the waiting room of its owner, one Doc Willoughby. It was a square of linoleum. It was an unremarkable piece as linoleum goes, neither garish nor plain. It was faded from many years of use. It had perhaps come from a great kitchen, or a municipal building, or possibly a public urinal. If one should look closely, although one never did, you would notice a strange pattern, hard to identify because of the wear, but most reminiscent of complex ancient runes, ornate and intricate foreign glyphs, or perhaps a child scrawling. Many inhabitants had undoubtedly seen the square, as they stared at their feet waiting to be cured by the doc, those were the optimistic ones, or resigned to their fate, the more realistic of the waiting room's traffic. But they didn't give it any thought. One of the two of the doc's customers had wondered why it was just there. And on one occasion there was a fellow who called in on the dock late at night with an emergency, who noticed muddy footprints that were half covered by the square, whilst the square itself was clean. Perhaps unwisely, he mentioned this to the doc whilst making conversation. It was an observation that did not become common knowledge, however, as the man took a turn for the worse and died a few days later from what everyone assumed was poisoning, but which the good doctor assured them was just complications from the toothache that the man had come in with. Perhaps one day a ship with goods destined for the kitchens of some exotic foreign land will wreck itself upon the notorious rocks of hopeless Maine's coastline, leaving behind a wealth of canvas-back flooring material. But until that unlikely event comes to pass, there is just one square of linoleum on the island. Thank you. That was the village square, which introduces the character of Doc Willoughby, who is kind of you're never quite sure about Doc Willoughby. He certainly drinks too much, and he certainly doesn't be a very good doctor. So what is he up to? Well, you'd have to read the graphic novels and the books to find that out. Now we are going to do later on at about 5 o'clock. We're doing a retail fair. We're doing a shopping channel, and you might get a chance to purchase books and the graphic novels during that little shopping channel program. So don't miss that. But I think the best way to give you a flavour of Hopeless Maine, we did a Kickstarter for 2 books. One New England Gothic, which was written by Nimue and illustrated by Tom Brown, and one written by some fella called Keith Errington and again illustrated by Tom Brown. And it's illustrated. Oh, you can't see that, can you really? But anyway, it's illustrated throughout with lovely pictures that Tom drew. So it's an illustrated book. There we go. I'll show you a picture there. That's a fabulous one, actually. That's a really good one. There's loads of fantastic illustrations in there. And we did a Kickstarter last year for that. And I'm going to play you the Kickstarter video now. So just bear in mind, Kickstarter's been and gone. You can still buy stuff through a link on the Kickstarter site. But why I was playing this is because I think it gives you the best idea of what Hopeless Maine is all about in a couple of minutes. So I'm going to play it for you now. So enjoy.
This is as far as I'm willing to go. Beyond here, I'm afraid you're on your own. I can take you no further. Beware of the water, it's blacker than murder. None come aboard here, for this is the border. Beyond here, you're alone. Seek your own quarters. Before you alight, here's a little advice. Wrap yourself tight, for the night is like ice that will slice like a dagger, encrusted with frost. Follow the path, don't give up, don't get lost. Out in the Badlands, you may come across a witch or warlock and then pay the cost. Remember to seek out the lost girl, the orphan. Approach her with caution, for she is much more than first she appears. A power that's clear. You wade through the strange and evade all the weird. That's all I can say. Don't feel pain, have no fear. Here in hopeless Maine, we'll take it from here. Soaked in the rain, there's a ghostly refrain. Don't say a word of complaint in hopeless Maine. There's a bloke with a cane to cope with the pain. In his brain is the smoke of hopeless Maine. In the mist there's a chain on the boat in the bay that stays off the coast of hopeless Maine. We insist that you stay, don't look away. Now there's nowhere to go but hopeless Maine. There in the distance sits a man in a shack. Doesn't know how long he's been under attack. He come to catalogue wildlife. He'd like to go back, but the land is so vast and the night is so black. And those things move so fast with their shells on their back. They go clack in the night and he's starting to crack. There's something in the chimney. Breathing heavily, eyes at the window, indecent and deadly. Tentative tentacles under the door. Wind in the rafters, he wonders or more. Creatures reaching awkwardly. There may be no more dawns to see. The windows are boarded, the roar of the sea isn't all he can hear as he falls to his knees. The diary he's keeping has been safely buried, hiding all that he's seen, but he needn't have worried. No one will read it or know that he came, buried deep in the mists of hopeless Maine. No one will need you or know that you came when you're lost in the mists of hopeless Maine. Soaked in the rain, there's a ghostly refrain. Don't say a word of complaint in hopeless Maine. There's a bloke with a cane to cope with the pain. In his brain is the smoke of hopeless Maine. In the mist there's a chain on the boat in the bay that stays off the coast of hopeless Maine. We insist that you stay, don't look away. Now there's nowhere to go but hopeless Maine.
So there we go. That gives you a fairly good introduction to what Hopeless Maine is all about. Like I say, you can still go to the Kickstarter page, and there is a link there to go to a shop where you can buy books and stuff. But what's next for Hopeless Maine? Well, currently, Tom, Nimue, and all sorts of fantastically fabulous creative people, Greg McNeil of Darkbox and Matt Inkler of Arcane Armory, and others, many others, are working on a fabulous movie. So there's going to be a movie, a old style black and white movie with a hand crank camera, and it's just going to be fabulous, using models that the wonderful Matt Inkler has created from Tom's fabulous drawings, and I think Nimue and John Bassett as well, who's been reading our bedtime stories. We've got another one coming up tonight. Have been working on the screenplay, and all sorts of people, and it's going to be brilliant. It's going to take a while, but it's one of those projects that I think is worth following and worth getting involved in. So that's something that I think we may well do some kind of funding thing for. Anyway, I'm going to finish this little section now with something else that isn't Hopeless Maine, but that kind of seems appropriate in this kind of segment, and that's a party political broadcast on behalf of the Cthulhu Party. So here it is.
Now, a party political broadcast from the Cthulhu Party.
Well, that went very dark, didn't it, for a minute? I must say. Well, so the Cthulhu Party, you'd be mad not to vote for them. That's what I say. So we're going to change tack now completely, and we're going to have some music. We're going to have the wonderful Temporal Trekkers taking us through some decades, and then we're going to have some live impromptu performances from SteamPunk's Alternate Lobster that was recorded the other year and sent in. So enjoy that, and remember, we'll be back. I'm going to let those play, and we'll be back at 5 o'clock with our shopping channel, SteamPunk shopping channel, which should be a great laugh, good fun. So we'll see you back then.
Hi folks, we're the Temporal Trekkers, here to see songs now from the 60s, 70s and 80s.
Oh yes, here we go, only 15 minutes, so here we go, we're going to cram it right in. So, where are we landing, oh, it looks like, yes, July 1967, it's the Prefab 4.
The local rock group down the street is trying hard to learn their song. They serenade the weekend squire who just came out to mow his lawn. Another Pleasant Valley Sunday, charcoal burning everywhere. Rows of houses that are all the same, and no one seems to care. See Mrs. Gray, she's proud today because her roses are in bloom. And Mr. Green, he's so serene, he's got a TV in every room. Another Pleasant Valley Sunday here in Status Symbol Land. Mothers complain about how hard life is, and the kids just don't understand. Creature comfort goes, they only numb my soul and make it hard for me to see. My thoughts all seem to stray to places far away. I need a change of scenery. Ta 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 ta. Ta 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 ta. Another Pleasant Valley Sunday, charcoal burning everywhere. Another Pleasant Valley Sunday here in Status Symbol Land. Another Pleasant Valley Sunday. Another Pleasant Valley Sunday. Another Pleasant Valley Sunday.
Okay, moving forward into the 70s, 1978. It's from the concept album of the century, the 19th century that is.
The summer sun is fading as the year grows old, and darker days are drawing near. The winter winds will be much colder. Now you're not here.
I watch the birds fly south across the autumn sky, and one by one they disappear. I wish that I was flying with them. Now you're not here. Like the sun through the trees, you came to love me. Like a leaf on a breeze, you blew away. Through autumn's golden gown, we used to kick our way. You always loved this time of year. Those fallen leaves lie undisturbed now, 'cause you're not here. 'Cause you're not here. 'Cause you're not here. Like the sun through the trees, you came to love me. Like a leaf on the breeze, you blew away. A gentle rain falls softly on my weary eyes, as if to hide a lonely tear. My life will be forever autumn, 'cause you're not here. 'Cause you're not here. 'Cause you're not here.
Moving forward. Oh yes, we're into the 80s. Oh yes. And it's Scottish and it's blue,
but it's not Billy Connolly.
There's a man I meet, walks up our street. He's a worker for the council, has been 20 years, and he takes no lip of nobody and litter off the gutter, and puts it in a bag and never thinks to mother. And he packs his lunch in a sunblessed bag of chewing corn and bogey. He never lets on, but I know 'cause he once told me he'd let me know a secret by the money in his kitty. He's gonna buy a dinghy, gonna call her Dignity. And I'll sail up the west coast, through villages and towns. I'll be on my holidays, they'll be doing the rounds. They'll ask me how I got her, I say, I saved my money. I say, isn't she pretty? The ship called Dignity. And I'm telling this story in a faraway scene, and sipping down raki and reading Maynard Keats. And I'm thinking about home and all that means. and a place in the winter for dignity. And I sail up the west coast through villages and towns. I'll be on my holidays, they'll be doing the rounds. They'll ask me how I got her, I say my nanny. They'll say, isn't she pretty? That ship called dignity.
Set it up, set it up, set it up. Set it up again, set it up again, set it up again. Set it up, 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 set it up. Set it up again, set it up again, set it up again.
And I'm thinking about Rome. And I'm thinking about faith. And I'm thinking about work. And I'm thinking how good it would be to be here someday on a ship called Dignity. On a ship called Dignity. That ship.
Oh yes, oh, get backward, 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 backward. Oh, 1972, 1972. Oh yes, do you remember when rock was young?
I remember when rock was young. Me and Susie had so much fun, holding hands and skimming stones. Had an old gold Chevy and a place of my own, but the biggest kick I ever got was doing a thing called the crocodile rock, while the other kids were rocking round the clock. We were hopping and bobbing to the crocodile rock. Well, rocking was something shocking when your feet just can't keep still. I never knew me a better time, and I guess I never will.
Oh, Lottie Mama,
those Friday nights when Susie wore her dresses tight, when crocodile rocking was out of sight. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. The years went by and the rock just died. Susie went and left us for some foreign guy. Long nights crying by the wrecking machine, dreaming of my Chevy and my old blue jeans, but they never killed the thrills we got. Running up to the crocodile rock, running fast as the weeks went past. We really thought the crocodile rock would last. Well, crocodile rocking was something shocking when your feet just can't keep still. I never knew me a better time, and I guess I never will.
oh, Lottie Mama,
Those Friday nights when Susie wore her dresses tight, when crocodile rocking was out of sight. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. I remember when rock was young. Me and Susie had so much fun, holding hands and singing songs. gold Chevy and a place of my own, but the biggest kick I ever got was doing a thing called the Crocodile Rock. Well, the other kids were rocking round the clock. We were hopping and bopping to the Crocodile Rock. Well, crocodile rocking was something shocking when your feet just can't keep still. I never knew me a better time, and I guess I never will. Oh, Lordy Mama, those Friday nights with Susie wore her dresses tight, and crocodile rocking was out of sight. La 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 la.
John Denver. Let's have a bit of John Denver. Well, if you say so, okay. Okay, right.
Nice and slow. Nice stuff. Get your lighters out and PJs on.
Well, my bags are packed, I'm ready to fly. I'm standing here, I don't know why. I hate to wake you up to say pip pip, but it's time to get up. It's 3:30. I've just brought you a cup of tea. I've not had one, only a little sip. So kiss me and slaughter me, tell me you'll wait a while with me, hold me like you'll never let me go. Oh no, 'cause I'm leaving on a jet lag. I don't know when I'll be coming back. Oh crikey, I hate to go. There's so many times I've let you down, so many times I've played a round of croquet, but they didn't mean a thing. Every place I go, I'll think of you. Every slice of cake, I'll cook for you. When I come back, I'll bring exotic gin. So kiss me and slaughter me, tell me you'll wait the while with me, hold me like you'll never let me go. Oh no, 'cause I'm leaving on a jet lag. I don't know when I'll be coming back. Oh crikey, I hate to go. Now the time has come to leave you one more time. Let me kiss you, close your eyes, and I will have my way. Just kidding. Dream about the days to come when we won't have to be alone. About the times I won't have to say. So kiss me and slaughter me, tell me you'll wait a while with me, hold me like you'll never let me go. Oh no, 'cause I'm leaving on a jet lag. I don't know when I'll be coming back. Oh crikey, I SteamPunk intervention. Pour me a cuppa, fetch the biscuit tin. I'll try the music custom, don't want to leave a ring. I'm a dapper gentleman, so tight and like a fashion. This swinging boots and slippers, which the beat things so dashing. What's all these coffee places full of twiggy hipsters? It's funny wrongs and like a lot, just giving me tipsters. Pour me a cuppa, fetch the biscuit tin. I'll try and use a custard, don't want to leave a ring. But even though you're short of milk, I'm sure you'll find me some, just some. I'll try and use a custom, I don't want to leave a ring. Even though you're short of milk, I'm sure you'll find me some, just some. You know what they say, if it ain't Baroque, don't fix it. Here's a bit of Barockabilly for you.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. That was SteamPunk's own alternative lobster. and I'll get the name right this time. So fabulous stuff there. We're going to be taking a break again now, and we'll be back at 5 o'clock with our shopping channel. We've not done this before, so this should be quite fun. It's a new kind of thing for us, but we thought we'd give it a go. We're kind of, in some ways, we're fans of the likes of QVC and so on, so it's our steampunk attempt at that, so we'll see how that goes. So see you back at 5. So remember, stay safe, stay splendid.